when it comes to the tech industry and technology in general, there are a lot of unsung heroes, right? From your tech support to your sales engineers. But this role specifically, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated. And really excited to have Casey on today to tell us, the superpowers that it takes to become a TPM and how he's grown in his career. Plus a bonus, he's also an entrepreneur and he's actually wearing one of his own stuff. How cool is that? So really excited for today's conversation. Happy to dive into it. Welcome to the stream, Casey.
Definitely, definitely. Thanks for having me.
For sure, for sure. So I'm gonna start this off a little unconventionally. I'm a little, pained that I didn't make it to render last week. Tell us about what went down there.
Render, man. It definitely was a time from two lenses, right? So I'm one of the planners for the Render Atlanta conference, but also it was great to get a chance to actually enjoy the conference as well. Tons of networking, learning, workshops, you name it. Render was also layered on top of Atlanta Tech Week. So there was a week long of events surrounding the Atlanta community, activating them. So all in all, a great time. Met a lot of great folks, heard a lot of great talks, and really engaged the city of Atlanta in the tech space.
Oh, first of all, gotta give a shout out to Lawrence. Shout out Lawrence. He has it in his bio recovering from render ATL. I'm just jealous that all of you went and nobody took me. And I'm beefing everybody till I show up next year.
Man, I just got back to work at Microsoft on Wednesday. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, still catching up from the good vibes of Render and excited to see what 2026 is going to look like in August for the team. So, yeah.
For sure. So, tech is, not the most travel path for many black and brown folks, right? So why were you able to get into tech? Was there something specifically that caught your eye, or did you just fall into it as, most of us did?
Yeah. Honestly, for me, I think it was something that was kind of embedded in me as a child, right? So I grew up in a single parent home, and my mom would get me the latest and greatest gadgets, right? I remember this one time she bought me an iPad. And instead of being a normal kid and plugging it in and actually using it, I decided to break it. I decided to break it to go inside that product and see how it worked. Right. I was always curious around how do things work and what problems we're solving with that tool. And of course, it got a little expensive for my mom to a point where she stopped buying me nice things. But for me, I was just a very, very curious child trying to understand exactly why do we build the things that we build in a certain way. I think the epiphany for me hit during my first technology class in the third grade, right? We were intro technology class, and the first question was, what is technology? And that's when I finally got the definition of technology. So, technology is a tool used to solve any problem, right? You can just think of a simple toothbrush. A toothbrush is solving a problem, therefore, it's technology. So, something as little as that, even not having any software development skills at the age of, I don't know, 6 or 7, just knowing that whatever I was doing or using was technology allowed me to see myself in that space. And then from there, I continued to just, go forth that path and eventually, have a focus in technology.
That is such an amazing answer. And I say that specifically because I'm going to recommend a book to everyone. And if you haven't read it, you should check it out too. It's by Matt Ridley. It's called How Innovation Works. And what it said is literally what you just broke down in a nutshell. And you said it so beautifully too, because I think what really blew my mind was how shipping containers as an innovation is less than 100 years old,
Mm.
right? Like you can't even imagine a world where you don't have shipping containers, right?
Yeah.
And there's so many things that we take for granted today that were groundbreaking technology in their days.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why that's such a very helpful perspective is tech and innovation can sound like this very, very scary and daunting, field or just thought process. But I think if you break it down to where you just did, right, where it's just like, what's the better way of doing things? Can we put a process behind it? Is it a product? All of that becomes new technology and new innovation that we can then apply to new things. And
Yeah.
we're doing it every single day, right? And I basically figuring out ways, that people are doing things. And you find that even some of the ways that tech companies today innovate and change their products, many of it is driven by how customers are innovating on their own and getting around their frustrations and pain points. So I really love that answer.
Yeah, it's literally frustrations, right? Someone was frustrated that they couldn't communicate with someone instantly, right? And then someone thought of the cell phone, right? So yeah, it's something as simple as that, to a point where sometimes I get upset with myself that I didn't think of that idea, because it's a pain point that everybody goes through. But yeah, to your point, that's what innovation is, and to continuously make that process better, or that tool better.
So what was your, so I really like the innovation, the origin story, right? Just break things, break things fast, which is another saying in tech,
Yeah.
break things, move fast. After that stage, what was the next step for you?
Yeah. So yeah, I could kind of walk you through my journey. So in undergrad, I got my degree in information technology from Florida State University. So we might clash on this a little bit. I know that you went to the University of Florida, but once I was done with undergrad, I wasn't quite sure what I really wanted to do. So an opportunity came to me from Teach for America, where I moved to Dallas, Texas, taught technology to eighth graders and algebra to seventh graders. For me, it was the experience of being able to teach someone something, and they walk into your classroom not knowing anything at all, but leave your classroom knowing or learning something, right? That aha moment when they start to connect the dots. I think that was what it was for me that encouraged me to go back to school, because after undergrad, I was done with school, no master's, no PhD, nothing. But getting a chance to see how kids learn reignited my passion for learning as well. So from there, I decided to go back to school and got my information systems degree from the University of Florida. And once I was done with that program, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to stay in the tech space, but to your point, like, the tech space is so grand, right? I could go software engineering, DevOps, product management, right? So on my last day of the career fair, walking out of that door, knowing that I probably wasn't very successful with, the conversations I had with some of these recruiters, to the right of the exit was General Electric. And they told me about their digital technology leadership program. Through great conversations with them, we connected, and I was now in this program. So the digital technology leadership program was a 4 rotation program where I rotated 4 times doing 4 different roles in technology. So I got a chance to try out software engineering in South Carolina, got a chance to try out DevOps in Atlanta, worked with some machine intelligence or machine learning and RPAs in Houston. And then my last role was in product management. And what I love about the product management space was, I sat as the nucleus around all these different teams, helping to push that product forward, right? I'm working with UX to understand what is the user impact of the thing that we're implementing. The software engineers are helping me figure out the how we're going to build the thing that, my customer has a pain point for. And then business, right? Like, nothing rolls without the money coming from the business. And everything has an ROI or a return, right? So understanding what their ROIs are and making sure that that tool that I'm building really hits that number. So working with all these different teams to push a product forward was the best opportunity for me, because I'm learning from these different teams as well. Becoming a smaller jack of all trades, although I can never do what the engineers do on a day-to-day basis, but I can now walk into those conversations knowing a little bit of what I'm talking about and, not reworking things. So yeah, so that's how I got into this role now. So currently now a product manager at Microsoft on the exchange side of the house.
You know what is so, first of all, shout out to you and shout out to GE as well, because I'm a huge fan of the people who give new talent a chance. Like, one of the toxic conversations I hear in tech now is like, oh, we don't need, junior engineers anymore, right? Like AI is going to do everything. But I think it's a very false knowledge. One, if everybody's senior, how do you get the juniors to become seniors in the future, right? Like, it doesn't make sense. That's the first part. The second part is there's just so much that happens. And you going through that process was such a beautiful thing, right? Because now you've seen, like, the front of the house, the back of the house, and you can now bring that holistic perspective to how you serve in that opportunity. And I think that's just a great thing. And the second thing is, like, you almost have multiple full moments, what's it called? Full circle moments, right? Where, your interest in technology started in the school, and then it came full moment for you in the school. And then you decided that you kind of like ended your education journey, and then it came back again, to where you restarted it and essentially embrace your role as a lifelong learner. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, right? Teaching people showed you still had more to learn yourself. That's such a great thing. So my follow on to that would then be, how important is it to give new talent a chance in the same way that you found your opportunity at GE?
Yeah. I think Kanye West said it the best. Listen to the kids, bro. Some interview somewhere. But no, I think we enter a space with the clearest of minds, right? Like, when you think of a child, right, they're easy to have an impression on, right? Because they go into everything with a clear mind. I think that's the same with young talent, right? We go in wanting to do all of these amazing things, and there's truly nothing holding us back, right? It's probably until you hit maybe, 10 years into your space where you have some of these other things that is stopping you from really pushing forward with that thing that you want to do. And you could kind of think of that with, like, your senior leadership, right? They've seen so many things to a point where, one idea, they'll easily scratch that because they've experienced so many things. But I think for young talent, again, we come in really fresh with innovative ideas, and companies that allow those folks to come in and really change the makeup of the culture and the company. I have huge applause for them, because I don't know. I think the youth is definitely where companies should be really investing their time and energy to, right? It's the future, right? So yeah, I think in a nutshell, the youth is very, very important to technology.
Again, you're dropping so many gems, and I'll go back to something that the CEO of my job says, about how risk is one of our biggest opportunity, and I want to then flip it back to what you said about how freshness is unlimited potential in that same way, right? It can be a competitive advantage. I was just watching a video earlier today about AI startup school that was being hosted by Y Combinator, and it was just a bunch of 18 to 25-year-olds in the audience, right? I think back to, like, Cooley, this new startup that's disrupting, the talent space, and even Source. Shout out to Source, which is basically a new way to just apply to jobs without the pain of some of the application portals where you have to spend 20 minutes on one job application. And I think it goes back hand in hand, right? Like, we go through something, we believe, this job portal that I'm applying on, it takes 20 minutes. That's what he does. They come in and they're like, why should it take 20 minutes? Like, this does not work at all, right? And then they figure out a way to fix it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of it. Kind of like back to what you're saying, is that it's so important to bring in people who are disruptors, who don't, whether we like it or not, we can be the most open-minded people, but you go through the motion so many times that at times you just get stuck in that cycle where you don't even recognize that you're already biased in your thinking and you don't think that there's a different way. You're going to find 100 different problems to why the solution can work. And maybe it's true, but they'll find one out of that 99 time where there might be a 50% chance.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get it in there and it'll work. And I guess we're the same in that sense. So going from GE to Microsoft is definitely a step, right? What did that take? Because getting into big tech is not a joke by any means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. I would say one good DM will change your entire life. And that's exactly what happened to me, right? So 2 years after I graduated with the program with GE, I rolled off into a product management space and I felt like I hit my ceiling. So I took it upon myself to, go on LinkedIn and see what was out there. So what I literally did was I went to LinkedIn, leveraged the search bar, and literally typed in the role that I was looking for at the company that I was looking for, --recruiter. And a list of all of these different recruiters popped up that was, again, in the role that I wanted to be in, that was also at the company that I wanted to, eventually land in. And I just literally shot my shot, right? I DM'd all of these different recruiters, telling them about myself, what skill sets I have, and so forth. And yeah, I would definitely say that 95% of those came with no response. But there was one response that came in, and her team wasn't even accepting new applicants for my role in my space, but she loved my energy. She loved the confidence that I had, and she was able to kind of move me to a different department that, eventually took care of me. And then they pushed me over to another department and another department. And then I finally got into a recruiter that was recruiting for my role at Microsoft in a space that was available, right? So the transition from General Electric to Microsoft was literally me just shooting my shot, being confident in the skill sets that I now had, right? The reason why I kind of stayed a little bit longer at General Electric was because, I didn't know if I had enough to be in the tech space, right? Kind of that bias that you have. But I think, through all of that, having confidence in yourself and really shooting for what you want can make a huge difference.
That is amazing. That is, like, I've heard multiple strategies because, again, that's what I always say on the Working in Tech podcast. You're gonna hear things you never hear, right? So that's why you got to check it out every single week. We're here, and this is another major key. I wish I had those soundtrack. We're gonna throw one. We could have thrown one right there, but imagine it in your minds. But that is so cool. Like the fact that you were able to figure out a specific strategy that worked for you and also being a numbers game. I think that's the part that I see that's lost on too many people, right? It's that, I'm going to try and apply to a couple of jobs. And if it doesn't work out, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be. Or, I DM those 5 people, understand that everybody's so self-absorbed and they're trying to fix their own problems. And sometimes they don't even have a solution for you, right? But sometimes somebody's going to take it upon themselves because you've done something and they just want to help you along. And look at how many bounces it took before you kind of found it.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's that point too. To the point of interviewing a few times, not getting it, and truly shutting it down. For me, I interviewed with 3 different groups at Microsoft, right? And they all said no. And, that could have definitely discouraged me and stopped me from, applying at all and staying at, the job that I had, right? But what I, started to realize was that no isn't always because of you, right? That no can definitely just be, hey, this isn't the best fit for you at this time. Maybe it's a numbers game, right? Or maybe they're, just it's not in your path right now, right? So not letting that no discourage you, because that no could be a whole lot of things that's just out of your control, right? Like I think for the second role that the second organization that I was applying for, I was applying with, other folks who already worked at Microsoft, right? And I found that out afterwards, right? So, again, that could have discouraged me, but understanding or hearing the word no shouldn't be the final be all, because there's so many factors that go into that.
Yeah, even your emojis are saying don't let that deter you. No. It's saying don't let that deter you, which is great, right? You got to keep pushing through. And I think you said something that is so crucial, right? Is having that belief in yourself, right? Because I think that if you put that as a variable, it goes back to, what the great Muhammad Ali said, right? I knew I was the greatest, and I knew that even before I became that, essentially. I'm sorry, guys, if I butchered it, but I think the point remains, right? Because ultimately, if you believe in a process, if you believe in your journey, the perspective is going to be different from, you know what, this is just another hurdle I got to cross to get to the finish line, versus, oh, that's it for me. It was never meant to be.
Yeah.
Because you only need one yes. I can't say that enough. And the thing is, there's so many steps in the process that actually get us closer to where we need to be. Because if you think about it, like, I mean, there are people who are going to be ready on day one, right? And shout out to them, kudos to them. But the rest of us are going to need a few tries. So maybe there's even a response. Maybe sometimes it's even us, but it's the us in this form, right? If you think about anybody who's great, Mr. Beast, Kai Cenat, or anybody else, the form that they're in today, like that form factor was not that way when they started. But every journey, every rejection, every single thing in that process took them to that moment. But if you say, oh, you know what, it's not meant for me, then you're never going to get there. So there's even a transformation that I think happens that we don't even notice, we don't pay attention to. Because ultimately, you're going to catch things. For example, your job at GE, what you were saying about, oh, I didn't do so well. But understand that you have the self-awareness to know why those conversations didn't go as well as you wanted, so that when you got to that moment, you were ready.
Yeah.
Think about that. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of us miss, right? It's like, or too many people miss, where it's like, oh, you know what? I guess I tried. Because it always works out in the end, one way or another. So in terms of career growth and trajectory, right? For anybody looking to get into product, because I know it's not the easiest role, and you can't just get like, the network plus and the security plus and just put it together and you're there. What are the skill sets that it takes to become a strong product manager?
Yeah. So there was this one book that I read that became my North Star for understanding more about the product management role. And the name of the book is How to Hack a Product Manager Interview. It is the first book that I read around product management. And that was a book that I read while preparing for my interview at Microsoft. So yeah, it's about 200, 300 pages. And it just literally walks you through each of the type of questions that you'll get from these big tech companies. Like literally every tech company had a section within this book, right? Google will ask you a certain questions that's different than a vibe that Microsoft will give you, right? And what I did was I studied this book as if it was the GMAT prep, right? Like I took some time, jot some notes down, answer some of the review questions after every chapter. And going through that process allowed me to understand what is the ideal product manager, right? Because I thought that I knew, right? But going through this process and interviewing really allowed me to understand the work that I'm doing in the product management space. So for someone who wants to get into the product management space, I would definitely recommend that book because I think there is, some confusion sometimes between what is a product manager versus a program manager versus a project manager, right? So one, knowing exactly what you want to do, I think is the first step in kind of breaking in. And now that you know about the skill sets that you need to possess as a product manager, you can go out and, do the things to get more information and more knowledge around that space. So I'll definitely say that's the first step. Outside of that, just making sure that, you're having conversations with other product managers, tuning into something like this where you're getting, the inside scoop from the product management space, because I agree, product managers, it's not one course that you can take, or it's not a track that you take in undergrad or graduate school, right? For me, it was something that I fell into, but I think it's once you're in the tech space, understand what a product manager is, then you can go out and kind of seek the skill sets needed for it.
Amazing, beautiful response. And if you guys didn't catch that, it said come catch this gems at working in tech.
Yeah.
We do have some questions, but we're gonna take those a little later. But I really want to dive into something really quick. You're both an entrepreneur and a product manager, right? What are the common threads that you see in those two roles, and what are skill sets that could help people who are already entrepreneurs transition easily into this role?
Yeah. Since we're talking about product management, I'm gonna put on my product management hat, right? So again, every product that you're building is solving a problem, right? Any product that an entrepreneur is building is solving a problem. For me, well, we'll probably talk about Dresscode a little later, but I think when we're creating these products, we're creating solutions for them, and we're utilizing kind of the product development lifecycle in a sense, right? We're iterating, right? Like, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve, right? And then we actually implement that thing, right? There might, need to be different things that you do to make that thing actually happen. And then once you are ready to ship that thing, you ship it out, right? You go live, you put out the website, you open the store doors, and then you start to get feedback from your end users and your customers. And then you're taking that feedback and looping it back in and making your product better for the next customer, right? So I found myself a lot leveraging the stuff that I was learning in the product management space into the thing that I was building, right? When I, first thought of Dresscode, right? I'm a creative, right? So I have a whole bunch of things that I want to do and want to build around, this one idea. But I really needed to sit down and really plan out what is the MVP of this thing that I'm trying to build, right? Because you can't do it all. Resources are limited. So sitting down and saying, hey, I need to execute task A, B, and C in order to at least get this thing out the door. Because I think as entrepreneurs, that's the one thing that holds us back, trying to make this one thing so perfect to a point where it just never leaves the nest. But for me, it was, let's get that MVP out the door, and then continuously iterate and get better. So to answer your question, I'm putting in my product management hat at Microsoft, as well as the things that I'm building in. And luckily, I'm kind of using the same skill sets for both avenues.
That is so cool. So quick shout out, everyone. We hope you're enjoying the conversation. Please like, subscribe, and leave any questions you have for Casey in the chat. This is the Working in Tech podcast. And Casey is both a product manager and an entrepreneur, and is breaking down all of the things that have helped him, get all the successes he's gotten in his career. To switch gears a little bit, I do notice that your first opportunity came from an event, right? And you're also very heavily involved, with, Render. How important is it for like new talent coming into tech to show up to those kind of spaces?
I actually just made a post about this the other day. I gave some tickets away to some undergrad students from Florida State, my alumni. And I gave it to them and said, hey, all right, cool. I'll see you around. Knowing how big the conference is and, there being so many things, I did not expect to see them around. But I actually saw them on the expo hall, and they looked like they were having a ball, right? Having conversations with folks, networking. We were able to take some pictures while they were rushing to make it to another talk that they had upstairs. Things like that excited me, and then just hearing the feedback from them via their post-event LinkedIn post, right? And it dawned on me that I never had this opportunity when I was in undergrad, right? Like I didn't start going to my first conference probably like four or 5 years ago, right? But these students are doing it right either in undergrad or right out of undergrad. And I think about like how different my career would have been if I would have been able to foster, the network and the community that you get from these conferences at the age of 22 or at the age of 23, right? Having folks by your side at that point in time. The different gems that they're getting from these conferences as well, especially, around AI. We had a huge summit, focused around AI, artificial intelligence, and what it means for the city of Atlanta and for the industry. Being able to get that type of knowledge at such a young age opens the door to endless opportunities and possibilities in the future, right? So, I said to say I'm a little jealous of them that they get to build community and get the inside scoop of all these great things that are happening. But no, going to conferences, huge opportunities to grow your network as well as grow your knowledge base. I would say that. It's just an overall great experience to just be able to be in that environment. Again, I started going to conferences like 4 or 5 years ago, and I haven't stopped, right? I've been to every render. I've been a part of every render. I make sure to make my way to other tech conferences that are happening as well. And even if I have to sponsor it on my own, that's how important I think these things are to our community. Although sometimes, most of the times, your company will, sponsor something like that for you. They have some type of training budget out there, but if you have to come out of pocket for it, come out of pocket for it, because the lifelong, lessons that you get and experiences and community that you get is like no other.
I met this really amazing lady at Render last year, and she got an opportunity at Microsoft actually, and it's the spirit, right? Like she's everywhere. She's at all these places, having conversations, looking for opportunities, and I think it does so many things, right? To your point, right? There's that confidence boost, right? Just being in the same room with people who would typically be on the other side of those interviews and panels, I think there's a way that it does demystify that whole process, right? Like these people are not gods or, some kind of like supreme beings. They're just human beings like you.
Yeah.
And these are people like, those 95% of people who would have ignored your DMs. Now, let me watch them ignore you in real life. It's not going to happen, right? Yeah. And then there's just that advice that you can get in person, right? Like, in sometimes even in the not in the expo or even in the talk, maybe it's like some after event later where it's like there's no formality, there's no ties, it's just a conversation. And there's so much magic that can happen around those type of things that I think a lot of people miss out on.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would say a lot of the conversations in the community building is at those, outside or after conference activations, right? And, it might not land with an opportunity then and there, right? But now you have that person in your corner. So when that opportunity pops up, they know exactly who the right person is for that, right? So, conferences, very, very important.
Yeah, a few comments before we go to the next one. So Javin says, appreciate the tickets, Casey. Oh. So you're getting all the love.
Who knows?
And then Kenny was asking what the name of the interview book was again.
Oh, I believe it is How to Crack the PM Interview.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna look for it and put the link in the description so that anyone watching back later can find it, and also use my Amazon code so I get the so I get the bonus. But anyway, but shout out for recommending the book. And oh, Kenny also left you a comment earlier that we didn't get to. I think that was when you were talking about the strategy of hitting up all those different recruiters. So yeah, that's a really helpful hint. And then since we're just getting to the comments, we might as well get to the one from Nikhil. So Nikhil was asking, how do you use AI in your workflow?
So Microsoft has Copilot, which we are all hands on right now. So next week we actually have our hackathon. So this is a week-long hacking, and the focus is around AI and Copilot, right? And we're thinking about how to leverage Copilot to take care of some of the mundane tasks that we do as product managers. For me as a product manager, folks are always asking for the status of certain deployments that's in the pipeline that I own. Instead of having to always go into the query and figure that thing out, right? The idea that I have is building an AI agent that will allow other folks to be able to use to dig up that information for them, right? So, AI is all over Microsoft. Copilot is the thing that we're truly pushing and building more and more agents to free ourselves up from, again, the smaller tasks so that we can focus more on strategy, roadmaps, and really, using our brain power to really make a change in the business.
And that, to be honest, like that's the biggest place that I see just the ability to like 10x everybody, right? Because it's like there's so many things that we do that takes so much time, right? But that's still very valuable, and I think that that's a really great way to unlock the value. Again, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, and Casey will be more than happy to take it. So back to the role. I was doing my research, and I found that average salaries for TPMs can be anywhere from like 130 to 170K. That FANG, especially like we're looking at well over 200K. Can you walk people through like what kind of income people can expect to make in product roles, and maybe to also then lower the expectations a little bit, what that looks like, when you're starting out, when you're mid-career, how that could grow, when you become like really senior, at least what you see in the market.
Yeah, I think you've hit it. Starting, first year, second year in the product management space, you're probably looking at maybe 120. But of course, as you continue to, tack on more years, that's when you incrementally start to rise. What I love around not just the product management space, but just working for a, big tech company are the stock rewards that you get for signing on, right? So, not going to say the number, but you get a huge, you get a huge stock reward that, essentially gets dispersed within 4 or 5 years of you being at that particular company, and that is more kind of compensation that gets added. And then for us at Microsoft, I believe every semester, you get a review, and then you get additional compensation just based off of how you performed for that semester. So there are continuous ways of, one, increasing that salary, but also getting more stock rewards to kind of add on to that bigger compensation package. And then you have promotions, right? Every semester you're being looked at and being reviewed. And then, eventually you'll hit that promotion, and that promotion will give you that, even larger bump in salary. For right now, I think I am one notch away from senior. And of course that senior band just comes with a lot of other great opportunities. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, starting about 100, 120, but ceiling, you definitely could get up to the 200s.
You can run it up. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I like what you touched on, because as you started to respond, like that was almost like my next question. One of the mistakes that I made, for example, when I was interviewing, for a fan role, was not really understanding like their comp structure. So this company specifically would they kind of like have almost like a flat line in terms of salaries, even from like juniors to like seniors. But where they really went crazy was in the bonuses and the sign-on bonuses. In fact, most companies will pay sign-on bonuses once, but because of how big a sign-on bonus they will give, they will pay it monthly. Like that's how big a sum it is.
Yeah.
So what are some things that, but again, I had to talk to someone who worked at a company to give me that insight. What are some of the things that, people might miss out on in terms of like negotiation, especially when they get, interviews and offers from this type of companies that they can watch out for? I know you mentioned, the salary piece and like the RSUs and things like that. What are the other things in terms of, things that people could potentially negotiate for?
Yeah, I would definitely say once you see that salary number, don't, I would say, once you see that salary number, don't be discouraged, right? Because there are other things within that package that you can kind of negotiate or adjust, right? If you want more salary, then maybe you want to get a lower, signing bonus, right? Lower stock options. And those are things that I didn't know until I was having those conversations, right? So yeah, because the first offer that they gave me, I was like, yeah, I'm expecting more than this, right? But understanding the entire compensation package, that's where it made sense. But for some folks, you may want, a certain amount every month, and you really don't care about, your stock options or, money growing. So you can kind of adjust that then and there as well. Most of the time, they're kind of probably lowballing you, and you can, actually ask for more money. For me, I just asked because, the only thing that they could say is no. After the second but they did say no. Now I know, right? But yeah, so it's more so around just understanding the full package, knowing that you can adjust things how you want it, just based off whether it's salary, stock options, or signing bonus, and just taking the risk and asking for more, because again, all they could say is no.
Yeah, I really like that mindset, because I think some of those things, even though like it's not, my audience is mostly focused on like people who are like trying to get in or switch roles or things like that. So money is not like the biggest thing, but ultimately like those kind of things are what leads to like dissatisfaction on the role, because same candidate with same skills as you do, but knowing way better than you do, could easily be making 50, 60K more than you are. And it wouldn't really be like their fault, because if they gave you that first offer and you took it and you didn't even know like you could negotiate on all the other things, it adds up really quick. And once you start to find out, that's when the problem starts.
Right.
So definitely something to look out for and really research, if you do get in that position, for sure. Quick shout outs. And just to confirm, the author of the book is Gail Alaska McDowell, right? Do you remember that?
I don't remember the author, but I can definitely find that out and drop it in the chat.
Okay. And Kenny also says, appreciate both of you. I appreciate you right back, Kenny.
Appreciate it. So luckily it is a PM book. It is a PDF. So you can, so Gail McDonald.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so to the brand, where did the inspiration come from?
Yeah, dress code. Again, putting that product management hat on. I was trying to solve a problem. The problem was me walking into my first all hands at General Electric and realizing that no one looked like me, no one dressed like me, and obviously, when you think of your typical technologist, they don't look like you and I. So I used that, or I saw an opportunity to do two things. One, build a brand that allows us to, creatively express ourselves in this tech community, but also allow dress code to be a platform where I continuously promote the importance of STEM education through something that we all love as a culture, which is fashion, right? So every piece of clothing that we have has some type of tech inspired messaging in the design to continuously, promote or educate folks on technology, right? Like you might see the shirt design, you're like, oh, that's cool. But when you start to truly look into it, you're like, oh, I get it.
That's cool.
Right. And then you finally just learn something about technology just off the whim, right? So yeah, so my goal with this whole entire thing is to, one, redefine the dress code of the tech community, but also redefine the makeup of the tech community, right? So I think African Americans only represent like maybe 10% of the tech workforce. So if I can continue to motivate and educate folks on this great space that is tech through something, again, that we all love, then hopefully we can start to, decrease that gap that we see in the space.
And what's the link to the website?
Yeah, so the link to the website is dresscode.dev. Dresscode.dev.
Gotcha. So y'all go check it out, cop something.
Also follow us on Instagram, dresscode.dev as well. But yeah.
That is amazing. And I think that you've also done some really cool partnerships in the past. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah. So we started a band about 3 years ago. Now we're starting to really get busy in the tech space and the collaboration space as well. So we just got done doing a project with Intuit. So we made about 400 shirts for folks in their office space that they're also using to show up to different conferences throughout the country. So that was kind of one of our bigger ones. We're doing a lot of stuff locally as well. We actually did a partnership with Atlanta Tech Village, which is one of the largest tech hubs in the Southeast. And we did a shirt for them. So instead of working from anywhere, we kind of dashed out the any in the W and it says work from here, Atlanta Tech Village. So they bought a whole bunch of shirts to distribute across their Atlanta Tech Village community. We've also done projects with Capital One, New Relic, a couple of collaboration projects with Render, showed up, in a couple of places during Afrotech. So yeah, just trying to find ways of, continuously collaborating with, some of the huge innovators in the space.
That is so cool. And if you had any advice, right, for people who are looking to build from the ground up, whether that's their career or their business, what's the best advice?
The best advice is just do it and get across the finish line. Again, like dress code has been a thing that was on my mind for about maybe 10 years. But for the first 5 years, it was just me being afraid to take that first step. Afraid of, how people will see it, how people will react to it, not getting the feedback that I'm expecting. So all those things were definitely holding me back. In addition to prioritizing the things that I needed to do to get it across that finish line. So once you lock in and understand that you can never know what anyone's thinking about your thing until you put that thing out, right? And even the reaction that you're getting about that thing, although it's probably negative, it still serves as a thing that will help you make that thing that you're building better, right? So I finally got out of that mindset. I was like, all right, cool, just get this out the door. And I'm literally, as I hit ship, I'm just waiting in front of the computer, just seeing how folks react to it, right? But yeah. So I think that's the first step, right? Just having confidence in yourself and pushing that product forward, and just seeing what happens. I think Wayne Gretzky, famous NHL player, said it best, right? Like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? If you don't take that shot, then you'll never know whether or not you'll hit a Super Bowl, right, or hit a home run, right? So that's the things that I think about, even when I'm in a rut, or even when I don't feel like pushing something. I just think about those things.
That is such a great perspective, and it's funny. Like, I was talking to some creators a couple of days ago, and I was saying the same exact thing. Like, the worst reaction you can get is apathy. Like, nobody cares. You're better off if people are like slamming it, because at the very minimum, maybe you're able to extract some positive feedback from it, and then use that to make the product better. But if nobody cares, that's that's completely worse than getting negative feedback.
Yeah.
But I think too many times we're too stuck in our head. I think I saw a video one time that, of course, like, I've been more on the I don't care side. I'm gonna do whatever, but I even got more there, right? When I watched this video that was talking about, and it's very grim, about, like, what happens when somebody dies, and how, like, everyone moves on. They're eating by the evening. They're doing this. They're doing that. So it's like, ultimately, why do you care so much? Like, even the greatest people 100 years later, nobody remembers them or what they did, or you see what I'm saying? So in this moment that you have this time, you want to spend your whole time second guessing yourself, or just going to do it. And even if you fail, guess what? Now you don't have to live, because I think that's one thing that we don't even realize when we sit so much on something we should be doing, is that later we have to sit with that pain and that agony of not doing it. And it keeps eating you up. Like, it was eating you up for 5 years. It'll eat you up for the next 10 if you don't do it.
Yep.
And ultimately, that time may go away, right? Like, you may be young and not have a family, and you have all this freedom to do what you want to do. And later you actually want to do it. Maybe that time doesn't exist anymore. Or maybe you wanted to build a mobile app, and now apps are not even a thing anymore, because now we've moved to AI. Like, there's so many things that we lose in that moment of not taking that opportunity, because I failed at way too many things in life, right? But at the very moment, those memories and the learnings always come full circle to where, and I think we're all that way. Like, every single thing that you do in your journey adds up to the next thing that you do, right? So it's like, the things that you're doing now, even if they fail, still add up to something. Whereas not doing them adds up to nothing, right? Because think about if you're a third-time founder who now has an experience of, let's say, failing at marketing, and now you learn that lesson, and now you pay more attention to marketing, and then failing at, like, maybe app security, and now you can pay more attention. By the third time, now you're good at marketing, at security, and this other thing that can now bring that final idea to life.
Yeah.
Your interview story too. Maybe you weren't so great at one answer, and then the other answer, now you can bring it all together. But not taking even that first step, to your point, robs you of all those opportunities.
Yeah, one thing we say a lot in the product management space, or in the tech space, right? Fail, but fail fast.
Yep.
Right. But you got to put yourself out there to fail, right? And once you fail fast, now you know that this thing isn't working out, right? So now you can reallocate that time to another thing, right? Instead of just living in kind of the nuances of the unknown, right? So yeah, definitely agree.
And Diana, we appreciate you as well. Thank you so much for sharing that. We already talked about the platform, the website, how to shop it, etc. Did you have any, like, codes you wanted to give people for some percentage off, or did you have, like, any shout outs or things that you wanted them to watch out for? You have a new drop coming?
Yeah. So yes, we had a huge sale at Atlanta Tech Week. So for Atlanta Tech Week, we activated maybe 5 or 6 different events. So inventory was definitely, stocked up and then brought out by the end of the week. So now we're in the restocking process. But yeah, there are some drops that's coming this summer. So definitely stay tuned. More around the work from anywhere vibes. We also have another collection called the Out of Office, where pretty much out of office on a shirt, out of office on a hat, and it's the summertime, right? So folks are taking that time off. So definitely take that time off and rock a hat while you can. So yeah, you can find all those things and more on the website. And yeah, definitely stay tuned. Instagram will definitely, give you all of the, updates and things that are coming for Dresscode in the future.
That is so amazing. So I know like you got some of the inside deets on RenderATL. What should we watch out for next year?
Next year, it's gonna be a time. It's gonna be time. One, because it is now in August instead of June.
Okay.
So this could give you, another month or so to kind of recover, enjoy the summer, and then hit render. But no, the team is super excited. As soon as the conference ended, that next week, we've already started to put things into play for 2026. So yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's definitely going to be a great time. And I mean, I think you guys can see the trajectory, right? Every year we continue to make this thing bigger and better. Continue to listen to our attendees on what they would like to see, different things that they would like to experience, and we continue to hit it there as well. We're a location or a conference where diversity feels or talent feels welcomed, right? So we want to make sure that we're hitting on every one of those needs and asks from our attendees to continue to make this a community-wide thing. So yeah, definitely 2026. We're in the planning phase right now, so it should be a good one.
And last like bonus question will be, in terms of a resume, what makes a great resume in your opinion, given your experience in the space?
What makes a great resume? What makes a great resume is identifying the true impact that you've made. Not that you just built something, but you built something that led to X, Y, Z, right? I think a lot of businesses or a lot of recruiters probably like to see, the numbers behind it, right? What did that impact truly, make a difference on, right? Like, hey, I built this thing that saved the company $2 million in COGS savings or something like that, right? So yeah, I think, as you start to list out the different things that you've done within, your particular role, tying it to some type of either dollar amount or quantity or impact to the business level, could definitely make your resume look very, very strong. And I think in the skill sets piece of it as well is just making sure that, you're figuring out a way to also show personality in there. Because anyone can do a task, right? And I'm not throwing any shade to, the folks that are brilliant at their job, but, a lot of folks can learn something and do it. I think the flip is around, are you great person to actually work with, right? We want to build these, these spaces at work where we love our team. We enjoy working with our team. You're going to run into situations, where, the things that you're trying to accomplish aren't as clear cut or aren't as easy, but at least you're doing it with a team that you actually like and actually enjoy working with. So, some way, somehow being able to show that personality in your resume, I think also can speak volumes and make it a very strong one.
Yeah. That's a really great way to land it. And I know we're almost at time, but I'm gonna steal this one last one. Um, to that point about personality, how important it is to show up, or how should a candidate show up to an interview?
Yeah, I think show up as your authentic self. There's a reason why you are at that interview. They've already done their homework, right? They've already looked at your LinkedIn. They probably found your social media somewhere. They kind of know who you are, right? So I think that interview piece is for them to make sure that they're further validating who you are. So show up as that, right? I think what makes this tech space, very interesting is the fact that now we're seeing all these different types of people who make up the makeup of this, tech industry. I'm not running into your standard Steve Jobs anymore at work, right? Like it's folks like you, folks like I, folks like, that are in other either regions, cultures, and things like that to diversify the work pool, but also bring in more insights and perspectives into the things that we're building, right?
Mm,
Yeah, to close that out, I think showing up as your authentic self, because your authentic self is what they are needing and wanting
mm,
to create this holistic, diverse community at whatever workforce.
absolutely. I don't know if you had any like final pieces of advice before we close it out,
Um,
or shout outs.
no, I mean, shout out to you for, having a platform like this where, folks get a chance to share their experiences. And folks get a chance to hear about these experiences and take those experiences and match them with other things that they've heard and kind of formulate a path forward to getting into the tech space. Again, like I wish I had something like this where I can tune in and understand exactly what goes into being a product manager and take those tidbits and apply them out, right? Like I was just going out there just saying, all right, cool, I want to do this, all right, cool, I'm doing this now, right? But just the availability of live streams like these and being able to search things up now, right? Like you can do that research yourself, but this platform makes it easier for folks. So thank you for hosting this. Thank you for hosting me. Yeah, any questions you guys have for me, LinkedIn is definitely open and available to answer or field those. Outside of that, I think that's all for me.
For
Oh,
sure.
also, I want to give a couple shout outs to, while I think about things full circle, I definitely want to shout out Jonathan King. So Jonathan King was that guy that took a chance on me at General Electric, right? And I actually know him and see him around Atlanta today, and we kind of laugh about that entire experience, but also the growth that happened since then, right? So shout out to him. Shout out to my deans from undergrad, grad school, University of Florida, Florida State, everyone that supported me beyond this journey. So yeah.
Absolutely, that is amazing, and great thing to kind of like remember where you've come from and like the people who've poured into you. That's so amazing. Really appreciate you coming on, and I want to say big shout out also to everybody who joined us tonight. I hope you found some value in this podcast. We do this every week on a Thursday evening, just for you to wind down and catch some gems about different roles in tech. This week, been speaking about product management. Next week, we'll be back with another episode. So you don't want to miss that. Um, yeah, I said he didn't find you on LinkedIn. It's the same name. You can't miss it. Great info. And you can DM me. I can send it to you. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. That has been the show tonight. We'll see